Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Tonight I'm going to bring you 3 Dogman encounters from Minnesota. Our first Dogman encounter takes place in St. Louis County, Minnesota, back in 1999. First off, I'd like to keep my name confidential just for the fact that this happened on an Air Force base, and I don't know who reads this stuff. This happened sometime in September of 1999. I forget the exact date. It was early in the month, though, and it was between 2 and 3 a.m. I was a security forces airman working third shift on base patrol. Now, mind you, this is an Air National Guard base that I worked at full time. It's on the north side of Duluth, Minnesota, next to the International Airport. North to northeast is nothing but large wooded areas. Forest areas. Third shift on the base was pretty boring, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and us full-timers worked a skeleton crew, usually only 5 to 6 of us on a third shift. I was in a patrol truck doing my usual rounds, checking doors and fence lines. Late at night on the north side of the base was usually creepy enough when patrolling by yourself. Anyways, I was on this road driving towards our baseball field when my headlights caught a pair of eyes reflecting back at me. They were almost eye level with me, and I was sitting in an F-150. Around this time, a few of the guys had been seeing a huge buck around the property, like a 16-pointer or something around that size. I was 80 yards or so when I saw these eyes reflecting back at me, so I'm thinking it was a big deer. I gotta see this thing. So I hit the gas and started speeding towards the field. This is where it all happened so fast, it's almost hard to explain. There's a little slope behind the baseball field. It sloped down probably about 12 to 15 feet into a brush line. The brush went about 30 feet, then turned into a thick tree line. The brush was probably armpit high to me and pretty tough to traverse through, being so thick. As I turned into the baseball field and turned the truck towards the thing, I just caught the rear end of the thing leaping down the slope, behind the line of sight of my headlights. The thing was no more than 20 feet ahead of me when it leapt. All I got was the back end of the thing, and it was big. The best I can do to describe what I saw was wolf-dog-like in nature. It had a long tail, longer than 2 feet. The hind legs looked exactly like a dog's, the same as the back paws, but the paws were huge. They were bigger than my hand for sure. The hair or fur was wavy, yet matted and thick. The color was blondish and very light brown. I didn't notice any gray in it, but this all happened within about 2 to 3 seconds. I sat in my patrol truck for a couple of seconds, confused and thinking, I know what I saw, but couldn't have been what I saw. So I hopped out with my flashlight and my M16 rifle and walked the edge of the slope. All I heard was this thing running through the woods in front of me, heading in the northwest direction. And this thing sounded like a moose charging through the trees. It made a lot of noise. That's when I started getting real scared, thinking, if this is some sort of wolf or whatever it could be, my M16 isn't going to do a thing to this animal. So I jumped back into my patrol truck as fast as I could and headed back to SF headquarters. I never told any other members about this for fear of ridicule or being called crazy. There's no way I misidentified this thing. I'm a trained observer and an avid hunter and have worked with animal rehabilitation and in the Minnesota DNR in the past. I know my animals in the North Woods extremely well. I saw exactly what I saw, and that was the back end of a large wolf-dog thing that basically had its eyes level with mine while I was in a patrol truck. The back end was definitely much larger than any of the largest deer or black bear I've seen. The points I remember the clearest were the tail and back paws, as well as the texture and color of the hair/fur. This is my story, and I've never told it to anyone in fear of ridicule, and I swear it's the truth. Our next Dogman encounter comes from Atkin County, Minnesota, January 2015. I'm a city girl, so I don't know a thing about tracks. Last winter, I was at a cabin and saw some prints in the snow next to a small creek near a frozen pond. The prints were a big circle with 3 smaller circles above the big one. Now, I wear a size 7 shoe, but wear a size 8 boot to provide room for extra socks. The print was bigger than my boot, which measures 11 inches long. I went home and looked on the internet to see what kind of print it was. After doing that, I decided it must have been a wolf. After I heard about Dogman a month or so ago, I checked the Wolf Center website and discovered that wolf prints only get to about 5.5 inches long. Since I don't know anything about tracks, I couldn't tell if it was on 4 or 2 legs that had left the track. Of course, at the time, the 2-legged possibility was the furthest thing from my mind. I told a friend about the tracks and that I thought they might have been a Dogman. Although he was my friend, he said he didn't believe in the Dogman. He did say that a guy he went to high school with back in the 80s, with whom my friend played music at the time, had seen the devil in the woods when he was up north hunting. He said it had red eyes, stood on 2 legs, and had the head of a dog. It was huge and stared at him and then jumped across the gully he was in like it was nothing. One thing I forgot to mention is that I had a tough little Lhasa Apso with me when I saw those tracks. Now, he is usually a fearless dog, but he wouldn't leave my side that whole weekend. I couldn't even get him to go outside of the cabin alone to go to the bathroom. Also, my 300-pound brother is afraid of the cabin and won't go up there alone. He doesn't believe in the Dogman or Bigfoot, but something about the place creeps him out. I've gone up there alone, but rarely go outside after dark. Once in a while, I find myself finishing up in the sauna after dark and rush back to the cabin, which is about 100 yards away. I use an indoor bucket instead of the outhouse in the winter when the water is turned off. I'm going to make sure that I put the curtains up and all the windows. Our final Dogman encounter comes to us from Otter Tail County, Minnesota, back in 2009. I'll start off by saying that I've never believed in any sort of these creatures, but I saw something in early 2009 that really disturbed me and is making me change my mind. I was not under the influence of any drugs, and I have better than average eyesight, and the lighting was near sunset, so I still could see pretty clearly. So I'll get this underway and explain my story, and maybe someone can shed some light on this for me. I live in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, which is in west central Minnesota, about an hour drive from Fargo, North Dakota. My mother-in-law lives out in the country about 3 to 4 miles out of Fergus Falls, and I was staying there while my wife and her mother went shopping in town. They called me and asked if I wanted to go see a 7 p.m. movie, so I left the house around 6:30 to 6:45 to meet them at the theater. About 2 miles from their house on a country road known as Wendell Road, along the Mistinka River, I saw 3 white-tailed deer. 2 of the deer were rather small, probably just yearlings, and a larger doe, who I assumed was their mother. Me, being an avid hunter, lover of wildlife, and future wildlife biologist, stopped to look at the deer. I should also mention that I hunt in the area, and I have spent my whole life in Fergus Falls area. The deer were following a small creek bed, which is in fact the Mistinka River, so there were hardly any trees except for one, Maybe because I didn't see it there because of the tree, but I just noticed something crouching behind the tree on the side of the road, looking at the deer and, to my belief, hunting them. It just sat there looking at the deer, taking no notice to me, even though I was in a truck no more than 40 yards away, with a clear view, with nothing obstructing my view of it. It had one hand on the tree and was bracing itself with it. What struck me as shocking was the fact that it seemed to be a two-legged creature and not a four-legged one. Its hands appeared to have opposable thumbs and were rather slender and long, very unlike a wolf. The creature looked as though if it were to stand up, it would be over 7 feet tall, with a protruding muzzle, broad shoulders, a slender waist, thick muscular thighs, and being as there was snow on the ground, I couldn't see its feet. He was deep dark brown in color throughout the body. After several seconds of looking at the creature in shock, the deer ran off. Then something amazing happened. It looked right at me, as though blaming me for losing its meal. He just sat there looking at me and blinking, but not moving. This scared the crap out of me, so I hit the gas pedal and drove off. It was very dark after the movie, so I didn't much feel like trudging through 3.5 feet of snow with the possibility of a monster lurking in the area who was currently looking for a meal that I scared off. So at about 10 a.m. I went back there and walked down by the tree. Now under the tree there was no snow, so there were no tracks that I could see. But leading up to the tree there were 3 tracks leading from my mother-in-law's field, which was hard black dirt. And if you know what Minnesota fields look like in late winter, early spring, you can't make anything out of dirt. The tracks I did find were only about 6 to 7 inches in length, but they were clearly canine, with the exception of a 4-toe looking marks in the snow. Well, that's my story. If anyone has any information on this, please let me know. 3 great Dogman stories. I hope you enjoy them. I want to let you guys know that sorry for not recording over the weekend. I took a couple days off. My daughter had a basketball championship to play in Syracuse. She plays 7th grade AAU basketball, and her team is now second in New York State at 7th grade level. So that's what I did this weekend, and I apologize for not recording. Believe me, I was jonesing to sit in front of my mic and record. So I hope you guys enjoy these stories, and please take care of yourself.